आप देखते देखते आपका बच्चा 1 साल 2 साल 3 साल का हो गया. 3 years is gone, 75% of their brain is already developed, and you have lost that window of opportunity. So we want that you, as soon as your baby comes into the world, or even when you have started expecting, you learn about it. We spread that awareness. We hit you hard saying that this first 6 years are very, very important.
Hello everyone. We are at a very, very important juncture in the education sector. Couple of years back, right in the middle of the COVID, government had introduced the National Education Policy. And as recent as few months back, government has also introduced first time ever a policy on early childhood education and development. And this has been led by the Ministry of Women. And we at Blink Invest always believed that early childhood education and development is a very, very important part of the entire education framework, because the maximum brain development, that is between the age of 0 to 6 years, is what it happens. And we in fact had launched our own report on early childhood education. And with that report, we were scouting for different types of founders, deals who can really focus on early childhood education development. And that's the time when we met Raghav and Shraddha, who've been pioneering in early childhood education and development. And they had launched Raising Superstar. So would like to have a warm welcome to Raghav on our studio.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for doing this with us.
Raghav, you started this business almost 4 years back. And you have gone through the different ups and downs, including the education, sort of meltdown. But you've been really holding strong, and lakhs of parents and children have gone through your program. What is the feeling? What is the experience that you have gone through it?
So yeah, that's right. It's been 4 years since we officially started Raising Superstars and started promoting this. And I think one of the main things, as you rightly pointed out, right, that the education sector has gone through a tremendous meltdown in the last couple of years. But one of the things that truly had going for us is that we were able to deliver outcomes to parents who come to us and do our programs, right? Early childhood education, a lot of people have heard about it. A lot of people have not paid attention that 90% of your child's brain is getting developed before 6 years of age. And लोग सुनते हैं, पता नहीं रजिस्टर करते हैं नहीं करते हैं, और ये फिगर समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. 90%, when you are saying 90%, मतलब 9 out of 10 आपके बच्चे का दिमाग, बच्चा स्कूल जाने के पहले 90% is developed. It's like a mind-boggling thing, right? And it is as real as it gets. When I say it's as real as it gets, means that when we deliver our programs to babies and toddlers and parents who do it, they can actually feel that journey where the child, when the baby, the toddler is developing skills at an amazingly rapid pace. And then as they start getting older and nearing 4, 5, 6 years of age, the learning does slow down, right? We can see it. We have noticed it. Parents tell us it does happen. The child starts becoming more left-brained. They start becoming more logical, analytical. And it's a journey that does happen. And after 6 years, it just becomes more and more difficult for the child to learn because 90% of the brain has developed. I cannot emphasize this enough. कि this is real. मतलब ये it's not just a statistic. And that is why I think we have been able to get this far for two reasons. One is that we believe it is real because we've experienced it ourselves as parents. And secondly, parents who come to us are able to get the outcomes that we are sort of committing with them.
It's very, very interesting, Raghav, that you mentioned that 90% of the brain development happens. And I've been in the education sector for last almost a decade. And obviously, I saw the evolution of preschools, the daycare in the last decade or so. But at the same time, when we did a survey, you'd be surprised that many, many educated parents were actually not aware that 0 to 6 years is when the maximum brain development happens. And they thought that, mera like 0 to 3 months, अभी तो छोटा बच्चा है, अभी तो उसको खेलने कूदने की उम्र है, किसी को नहीं मालूम था. And with that particular background, it's very interesting that the government has taken this initiative, specifically the Ministry of Women has taken this initiative to come off with an entire framework, entire developmental insights about this. What has changed? Why now? Abhi kyun?
Yeah. So I would like to just clarify one point for the audience. 0 to 3 months या 0 to 6 years बच्चों का खेलने का ही उम्र है. But the fact is that खेलना और सीखना is completely intertwined, which is what we as a society has sort of failed in education, because we have made education as a completely separate thing, जो कि पढ़ाई, stress और काम, it feels like work, right, rather than it being fun and it being like something जो कि हम enjoy कर सकते हैं. 0 to 6 years में बच्चे को खेलना है, कूदना है, मस्ती करना है, मजा करना है, but it doesn't mean कि उसमें learning नहीं होगा. You can learn through play. That is most important. Now, the question that you asked, ki why now, right? Why government has taken this initiative right now? I think there are quite a few factors here. One is that if you see the sort of history of the last 60, 70 years, statistics tell us that in the 1950s, for example, average family size was 3 kids, right? 3 to 4 kids, average family size. If you see now, it is already come down to about 1 child per family. So now what has happened is that the parents have more resources, because obviously wealth is increasing. People have more resources, they have more opportunity, more exposure. They are themselves more educated. And all of their attention is on one child, right? So they are more focused on कि अच्छा बच्चे को कैसे करना चाहिए, क्या करना चाहिए. The other thing that has happened in the last few years is that when COVID hit, a lot of our babies and toddlers were excessively addicted to screen time, which is like the most harmful thing that you can do for your child. It leads to cognitive delays, it leads to speech delays, it leads to a lot of evil things, evil effects on the brain of a baby or toddler, which parents did not realize. And a few years of COVID completely ruined it for a lot of parents, and this has been seen in increased cases of all of these issues. And I think somewhere the government has realized that there needs to be a framework. There needs to be like a formal sort of a guideline for parents and educators to see how we can raise our next generation of kids, because after all, babies and toddlers are our next generation. They are the future of the country. The government is talking about building the nation, right? Nation building का हम बात करते हैं, तो nation building में हम अपने babies और toddlers को कैसे ignore कर सकते हैं?
No, you are absolutely right, Raghav. And what I'm hearing from you is literally no screen time, no screen time, no screen time, because that's extremely important. But at the same time, a lot of schools have said that, technology is unavoidable. People will be using screen. So don't you think there is a dilemma between screen se learning karo, ya, and one end you are telling about no screen time?
See, technology is inevitable, right? We say no screen time, but we are a technology company. But what is it being used for? Now, the easiest thing for a company is to make videos on screen, give it to the baby, वो दिन भर देखते रहेगा, दिन भर देखेगा. And the company will say, देखो मेरा sessions time and कितना time spent on the app इतना ज़्यादा है, blah blah, and we are such a great company. But what are you actually doing to the baby, right? Let's actually understand why is screen time bad. Let's understand that first. What happens is that when you expose a video on a screen to a baby, the video is speaking to the child. The baby is watching, toddler is watching the video में कुछ बात हो रहा है, baby देख रहा है. But baby doesn't have to speak back to the video, right? It's a one-way communication. Now, imagine what that does to the brain. The baby is a very fast learner. What it quickly realizes is that, अच्छा, कोई मुझसे बात करे तो मुझे बात करने का वापस जवाब देने का जरूरत नहीं है. आई डोंट नीड टू स्पीक बैक. दैट इज वॉट इज द वीडियो टीचिंग देम, right? So it leads to speech delay not because their muscles, the vocal cords are not developed. It's just because they don't realize that they need to communicate back, and they spend so much time on screens that this becomes like a huge problem for many years. And it also leads to cognitive disabilities, cognitive delays, all these kind of problems. That's number one. Number two, if you think about any sort of skill that we have as human beings have been on this planet for 200,000 years. Screens have come in the last 10 years. All of our abilities have been developed off screen, right? Whether it's our muscular abilities, physical abilities, mind abilities, reading, maths, कुछ भी आप देखें, हमने स्क्रीन में कभी सीखा ही नहीं है. Any practical application that we have as a human being will never be done on the screen. हम आपसे we are talking socially, we are doing some labor work, we are doing some math work, we are performing any kind of thing. It is not going to be done on the screen, especially as a child. तो आप स्क्रीन पे सीख कैसे सकते हो? राइट, इट्स लाइक कि आप प्ले स्टेशन पे फीफा खेल रहे हो और सोच रहे हो कि आप लियोनेल मेसी जैसे फुटबॉल खेलोगे. इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन, राइट? इफ यू वांट टू लर्न रीडिंग, यू हैव टू लर्न इट, और रीडिंग, राइटिंग, मैथ, you have to learn it with the concrete elements that teach you that. That's how the human mind has been developed for the last 200,000 years. So yeah, so screen time, technology, obviously, technology is an enabler, but screen videos to a child is a complete no-no, especially for the first 3 years. It has to be 0. उसके बाद हम थोड़ा इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं for the right things, for storytelling, for maybe like doing video calls, for doing other things, but not as a teaching mechanism. And also, the other problem with screen time is also it's not supervised. आपने दे दिया अपने बच्चे को वीडियो, अब वो वीडियो में क्या दिखाने नहीं दिखाने. मोस्ट कंपनीज टुडे आर मेकिंग दीज वीडियोज जान के वो उसको ऐसे ही अडिक्टिव बनाते हैं कि बच्चा देखते रहे. तो देयर विल बी फ्लैशिंग लाइट, देयर विल बी लाइक swoosh sounds that will trigger certain chemicals in your child's brain to make it addictive. वो देखते रहेगा. मार-धाड़, violence दिखा रहे हैं. Language is completely like either abusive language, or it is language that is not appropriate in civil society. That kind of thing. You don't want your child to be raised like that.
Sure. No, very, very interesting, Raghav. In fact, the report also mentions various principles around early childhood development and its implication. For example, it really speaks about learning begins at birth. It speaks about that from 0 to 3 years, maximum oral development happens, that is the speaking ability of the children as well. And the holistic development happens through hands-on learning, through learning with experience. And what are your thoughts around this, and how raising superstar is aligned to the overall thoughts of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in the 1980s, right, there was a scientist called Howard Gardner, who was a professor at Harvard University. He came up with the theory of multiple intelligences. Now, the theory of multiple intelligences is very simply, what it says is that every child is different. Every child learns differently, and every child has different type of intelligence as well, right? What it means is that you cannot measure a child's IQ, intelligence quotient, with just a single score based on one single facet of learning. कि अच्छा, मेरा बच्चा मैथ्स में बहुत अच्छा है, आपका बच्चा अच्छा नहीं है, तो my child is more intelligent than you. It does not work like that, right? Every child has, and he defined 9 different types of intelligences. Somebody could be intelligent physically. Somebody could be intelligent in languages. Somebody is intelligent in math. Somebody is intelligent in music or creativity. He had these 9 different things. And the way the child will learn is also different. And the way they will express their learning is also different. So somebody might be a visual learner. A child might like to see things to learn. Somebody might be a more auditory learner. सुनने का है, गाने से सीखेगा. So that's how children learn, right? And what we do at Raising Superstars is that we firstly recognize that every child is different. We don't need to benchmark kids. We don't need to test them and say कि आप 90th percentile पे हो वगैरह वगैरह, right? What we say is that we can help every child achieve their own version of their full potential, right? Not conforming to any sort of society standards. Every child's fullest potential. And the way to do that is through our Prodigy framework, which is modeled after the theory of multiple intelligences, where we provide different kinds of learning opportunities to every child. Visual, auditory, tactile, etc., etc. And we provide skill development in holistic way, all round skill development in all aspects of life.
So I think it's very interesting that you have really created this particular framework. और आपने काफ़ी ये एक्सपीरियंस अपने खुद के बच्चे के साथ भी किया था जब you and Shraddha both worked on this your own kid and then you realize that what is the importance of it. And most of the parents जो मटेरियल है आज के दिन freely YouTube में देखते हैं या कैसे सीख रहे थे. But then you both realize that there is an organized approach to learning these things. So how you went about creating this framework and what are the practical learning which you have are giving as you have created these activities and you have experienced yourself with your own child as well?
So, as I said, one of the models that we used to create the framework was the theory of multiple intelligences. But we did a couple of things, right? First, we said that we need to educate ourselves on what early childhood education is all about, whether it works, doesn't work, what are all of the experts who have come through the ages, what do they say about it? What have their experiences been? So we put in a lot of hours, like literally like 2,000 hours to read, research, watch videos, talk to people, etc. That was one aspect. The second aspect that we said is, okay, now that we know foundationally how all this works, obviously we need experts who've been researching in this field, working in this field for many, many years. They should come and say ki, how do we take it to implementation? How do we create a framework that will actually work for parents? So then we brought in experts. Now for example, we brought in a professor from Yale School of Medicine, who's the director of early childhood education there, Dr. Craig Bailey. We roped him in the early years. And we brought in experts from different fields. So if we wanted to create something on music, obviously we need a musician. If we wanted to create something around math, then we obviously needed someone who's an educator. So researchers, educators, even doctors, if we are doing anything related to physical development, we got in doctors to say, okay, ye kaise karna chahiye, ye sahi hai ki nahi, can we do this? We worked very closely with these sort of experts to create our framework. So that was how we sort of created the execution plan. Now, in terms of what we wanted the Prodigy framework to encapsulate, we said that literally every kind of skill, talent that a person might have should be captured somewhere in the framework. राइट तो आप कोई भी स्किल ले लो, आप मजिशियन हो, रनर हो, आप मैथमेटिशियन हो, हमारे फ्रेमवर्क में कहीं ना कहीं आपका स्किल फिट हो जाएगा. एंड वी build the foundational skills for everything, every talent that a person can have. We are not saying that we will teach you how to be a magician, but we'll teach you creative thinking, for example, right? So that's how the Prodigy framework was built.
It's very interesting while you are talking about a holistic development. You have taken it music, you have taken language, and all this you have put and multiple activities which you have built with the students. But अगर इंडिया की बात करें, कोई भी पेरेंट्स प्राउड जब होते हैं ना, वो एक ही चीज़ बोलते हैं, यार मेरे बेटी का संस्कार बहुत अच्छा है, उसकी परवरिश बहुत अच्छी है. एंड इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग दैट ये रिपोर्ट ने स्पेसिफिकली वर्ड यूज़ किया संस्कारास, which is the value system. Yeah. And that is very, very core to our India. What do you think about it? How you are embedding this piece? Because this is something, कैसे उसको आप quantify भी कर सकते हो, right?
Absolutely. So what you're referring to is that in the National EC curriculum framework, literally I think on the second or third page, government has said that how children live in India or how children grow up in India is through our sanskars, right? And the government has also rightly called out कि पहले तो joint families होते थे. Grandparents are there, uncles are there, aunts are there, siblings are there, all of you are growing together. So that core fabric of the family, the core fabric of the culture is being preserved and it is being propagated as well. पर आजकल क्योंकि families छोटे हो गए and there's only one child, two child in each family, it's becoming very difficult to sort of continue this our traditions, our culture, our sanskaras, right? Now, one of the things that we believe needs to be done is to do this in a very mindful and conscious way. If we want to preserve our sanskars, then it has to be done in a mindful and conscious way. And therefore, in our Prodigy framework, Prodigy framework has 5 critical components: physical abilities, intelligence, creativity, peace sense, and one of them is the moral code. The moral code is literally what you are talking about: how to pass on your moral values, your culture, your traditions to your child from a very early age. So yeah, of course, we cover this in our framework extensively because it's 20% of our framework is also doing that.
This is so interesting. It's the moral code, which is your sanskaras, and nowadays, there is, sorry to say this, but there's a fascination that my child is able to speak English. But at the same time, ECE has spoken about the language learning. Okay, your mother tongue is extremely important, and that's what even your moral code speaks about. That is language learning, your mother tongue, and all this. So, would love to have some understanding from you. What's your insight about mother language and language learning as well?
So we don't take a view on कि क्या अच्छा है क्या खराब है, right? We have literally no judgment on that. We leave it to every family and every parent. अगर आपको लगता है इंग्लिश अच्छा है, आप इंग्लिश पढ़ाएं. आपको लगता है कि आपका मदर टंग अच्छा है, आप मदर टंग पढ़ाएं. हमें we have no judgment either way. We don't say this is right, this is wrong. But we enable you to do what works best for your family and for your child. Now, in terms of language development, we know from science that if your child is learning a language, it is extremely amazing for their brain development, because language is supremely complex, which is why human beings are the only species on planet Earth who can speak a language, right?
They can communicate as well.
Exactly. So it's an extremely complex skill. आप अगर सोचें कि we are just making some sounds and we are able to understand exactly how you are feeling, what you're wanting to say, it's like just fascinating to me what language can do, right? So it's a great skill to learn. And fortunately, because our babies and toddlers are such fast learners at that age, they can learn multiple languages without any trouble. Like if we have to learn a language at this age, right? Like if we have to learn Japanese, Greek, Russian, something like that, we'll spend years and we will not be able to get proficient. But a child can learn multiple languages all at the same time. And we definitely encourage kids to do that and parents to enable that.
No, that's very, very interesting, Raghav. And this particular framework also speaks about that in today's world, when there's so much of competition, so much of people are sort of really want to be always the number one. They're specifically mentioning that any instruction-based learning, specifically in early days, is very, very harmful for the children. At the same time, they said that it's all about experiential learning. It's all about learning by doing and knowing. Yeah. Really, it is important that वो महसूस करे क्या कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं, किस लिए कर रहे हैं. But in this competitive world, people are saying यार ये अभी नर्सरी में केजी में अगर मैं ग्रेड 1 का मैथ्स करा दूँ, ग्रेड 2 का करवा दूँ, तो मेरा बच्चा जीनियस हो जाएगा. यार तो ये डायलेमा है, पेरेंट्स पे प्रेशर है, क्या है, क्या आपका व्यूज है इसमें?
So that is a very interesting point. इंडिया में मैथ्स अगर आपको पढ़ाना है बच्चे को, तो आप 3 साल के 2 साल के बच्चे को टेबल्स लर्न करा दो एंड पेरेंट्स बिकम वेरी हैप्पी कि मेरा बच्चा 2 का टेबल, 3 का टेबल, 10 तक का टेबल सीख लिया है 3 साल की उम्र में, राइट? नाउ दैट इज़ नॉट नेसेसरली बैड. फर्स्टली लेट मी क्लैरिफाई, दैट इज़ गुड, बिकॉज टेबल्स अगर आपको याद करना ही पड़ता है. And when you learn tables, it will be beneficial later on. But what is bad is if parents don't realize that your child has just memorized like a song or memorized like the tables, but has not really learnt math, which is what you're talking about, which is what the government is trying to sort of indicate without exactly saying कि in India, we are often accused of being rote learners, right? We मतलब सब हम लोग बोल रहे यार ये तो सिर्फ रोट लर्निंग सिर्फ इन आवर चाइल्डहुड वी यूज टू से कि मगअप कर रहे हैं मगअप कर रहे हैं राइट सो वी आर ऑफन अक्यूज ऑफ दैट बट गवर्नमेंट इज सेइंग कि वो इंस्ट्रक्शन बेस्ड लर्निंग नहीं होना चाहिए विच मीन दैट रोट लर्निंग नहीं होना चाहिए राइट एंड विच इज कंप्लीटली राइट in our maths program, for example, so in our program, we follow the CPA approach: concrete, pictorial, abstract. Concrete is where you learn by doing, right? So you are manipulating some blocks, you are using some objects, you're doing something to see, okay, 4 means 4 blocks. Otherwise, if you say 4 times 2 equals 8, 4 क्या है 2 क्या यही नहीं पता बच्चे को 4 होता क्या है 4 ये क्या है what is that? So 4 means 4 blocks, 2 means 2 blocks, right? So concrete is that. Pictorial is seeing pictures of 4 objects. Okay, you can count. There are 4 things, 4 pictures. And abstract is the last aspect where you say, okay, these 4 things, we can represent it with the numeral 4, right? So that is the approach that we take, and we take quite a long time to get to कि अच्छा tables भी learn करना है. But by the time we get to the tables, the child already knows because they know multiplication. So the way to do it is to sort of first build the foundation in everything, whether it's maths or reading or memory development or music development or creative thinking, problem solving. Develop the foundational skills so that बाकी का skills तो आप जब बड़े होगे तो आपको आना ही है, पर आपका foundational इतना strong है कि you can tell the other child कि ये 4 times 2 8 क्यों है, not कि 4 times 2 8 है, वो तो हमें पता है, but ये क्यों है. So that is what the government is also trying to say कि the lesson, the instruction has to be child-led, it has to be play-led. खेलते खेलते enjoyment में बच्चा सीख रहा है और वो इतने अच्छे से सीख रहा है कि the core concept is getting embedded in their brain in the manner they want to embed it, whether it is visually or auditorily, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे multiple intelligences का, जैसे भी उसको समझ में आता है बच्चे को वो अपना सीख ले रहा है.
राघव, आपने एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात हमें बताई कि खेलकूद से बच्चा सीख जाएगा, मगर जब स्कूल में जाता है तब पेरेंट्स बहुत ही वरीड होते हैं कि यार स्कूल में सब बच्चे के साथ सीखेगा, दैट मीन्स उसके बाद उसको आएगा नहीं आएगा, विल ही बी एबल टू लर्न अंडरस्टैंड समथिंग. तो पेरेंट्स लोग उसको घर में मैथ्स करा लेते, रीडिंग राइटिंग करा लेते, बिकॉज व्हाट विल हैपन इफ मेरा बच्चा नहीं बोल पाएगा, इन्फीरियर कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी होगी. बट एट द सेम टाइम study done by the government, and that is what the report also sort of mentions, that ये सब कुछ ज़रूरत नहीं है. What is really required is communication skills, कि आपका बच्चा communicate करे, आपकी linguistic skills, what is required is development of cognitive skills, ये सब चीज़ चाहिए. Now, what is this all about? Can you give me some insight about this on the school readiness wise, because that's the biggest pressure which I've seen among the parents कि मेरा बच्चा ready है कि स्कूल के लिए कि नहीं.
So what the government is talking about is the early years, 0 to 6 years, right? And 0 to 6 years mein there are, first of all, we need, before we get into anything else, right? We need the baby, the toddler, the child to be happy. First thing, we need the child to be happy because a happy mind can attract learning, it can attract knowledge. If the child is not happy, nothing is going to happen. If you keep saying maths पढ़ो ये पढ़ो, बच्चा अगर खुश नहीं है वो स्कूल जाके भी कुछ नहीं सीखने वाला. Number one. So you have to take care of the basics, which is health, nutrition, peace of mind, happiness, good environment at home. But if we talk about these softer aspects, softer skills versus the hard skills, for 0 to 6 years, we do want the foundations, the foundational skills to be very strong, which is your communication skills. When we are talking about communication, we don't necessarily need the child to be extrovert, right? A child can be introverted, and that's completely fine. But being able to communicate is being able to communicate the child's needs. Ki mujhe, how am I feeling? What do I need? Do I need something for my safety? Those kind of things. Being able to understand what people are telling the child, whether it's an adult, whether it's a peer child of the same age, right? Those kind of things. Being able to meet the physical milestones, the cognitive milestones, etc., etc. That's what we are talking about. But as the child is getting into the school, we fundamentally also believe that they do need to know reading and math, which I think the government also acknowledges. What government is saying is that uh, the ECE framework, the government has clearly mentioned in their report that the ECE framework is not a downward transition of the grade framework where they have milestones, right? They are saying that ECE framework is a guideline for every caregiver and educator to implement for so that the child becomes ready when they go to school, and then they can start meeting the milestones in school. They don't want the ECE framework itself to become like something that we start testing our child. As you know, Raising Superstars is completely against testing. We have a no testing policy for our kids. एंड द गवर्नमेंट इज सेइंग द सेम थिंग कि उस एज के पहले हमें टेस्ट वेस्ट कुछ करना ही नहीं है, हमें हार्ड स्किल्स का माइलस्टोन्स नहीं करना है, वो स्कूल जाके जो होगा वो एनीवे इट इज प्रिस्क्राइब्ड इन एज पर द पॉलिसी.
So what I'm hearing from you is that there should be a communication skills. बच्चा should be able to speak. If अगर उसको uncomfortable है तो वो बोल सके, चुप नहीं रहना चाहिए. It is important कि उसकी cognitive skills develop हो, वो समझे. That is more important rather than 2:4 as a maths की rote learning आप मुझे बता रहे हैं. Now at the same time जब आप ये रिपोर्ट को देखेंगे उसमें उन लोग ने बताया है कि 0 to 3, that is from birth to 3 months, there are certain activities that can be done, there are certain milestone भी then. What should a child do? वो बच्चा क्या कर सकता है, a caregiver जो है वो उसके साथ क्या क्या कर सकते हैं. So they have really specified that entire framework including certain activities and milestone as well. Now, don't you think that itself results into a milestone, and that is what a parent should measure? And that is where you know whether the children have got developmental challenges, or that also is a measure to know that what is really happening with the child as well, while they are not still able to speak and read or whatever, learn also.
Yeah, actually, you have touched upon a lot of points there. So I'll break it up and answer all of them, right? First thing is you touched upon developmental challenges. Now, developmental challenges, if there are any signs of developmental challenges or if a parent is worried, we always say that if you have any cause of concern, then please meet with a specialist doctor, and the doctor can definitely guide you, and they have ways to measure certain milestones, whether they have been met or not, and if the child need any special care or attention, right? So that is completely different. Now, the second thing that you also said is ki government has specified from literally for the first year, every few months क्या-क्या activities करना चाहिए, then every year क्या-क्या activities करना चाहिए और उससे क्या होगा, right? I personally think that the government has done this not as a way to say कि सिर्फ ये कर सकते हो. I think the government has done this because this is the first time that an early childhood framework is being made in the country, and there are not enough professionals who know कि करना क्या है. So what the government has decided is कि हम आपको पूरा एकदम प्लेटर पे दे देंगे कि स्टेप बाय स्टेप आपको क्या करना है, आप ये कर लो, so that anybody can take that framework and apply it in their family, in their household very easily, because the government has completely laid it down, and it helps teachers, caregivers, educators, parents, family members to all get aligned on a common objective, on a common platform. So that's what the government is doing. इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि क्या एक्टिविटीज़ होना चाहिए या क्या माइलस्टोन्स होना चाहिए, there are certain milestones that have been defined for a very long time by researchers and medical professionals. Ki, for example, a child should be able to take a 3-step instruction. One of the things they say is 3-step instruction by a certain age. 3-step instruction means that go to that table, pick up that ball and bring it to me. So there are the 3 steps. You have to go to the table, you have to pick up that ball and then bring it back to me. So there are 3 steps, right? So then there are 2-step instructions. Go to the table and wave. Right? So these milestones are very well defined and वो तो हमें meet करना ही है, but that's just like the base level कि वो अगर वो नहीं meet हो रहा है तो there might be some special care and attention that you need. So but apart from that, what are the other things that we can help the child develop, not because it is developmentally appropriate, not just because of that, but also because we have that 0 to 6 years ka window of opportunity when 90% of your child's brain will get developed in just that window. So why not utilize it with simple fun games that will help sharpen your baby's brain, boost their abilities without any pressure, without any screen time, and it only takes 5 to 7 minutes in a day.
It's very, very interesting that a government has taken this initiative to launch ECE framework, which is just the beginning. And this particular framework, we at Blink Invest believe is just a starting point for early childhood development. And it's not only about this framework, it's also about how they're going to impart this knowledge, experiences which they have cumulative gathered from various sort of researchers. So I totally acknowledge this particular initiative at Blink Invest personally as well, And with that, Raghav, my final question for this particular podcast is that we spoke about 90% brain development happening there. We spoke about UNICEF also saying that there is a different trajectory when the early childhood development happens with the children as well, right? And we have got a lot of other researchers who have again and again confirmed, whether it's Montessori style or this, that early childhood development is the base and the foundation of it. Now, at Raising Superstar, how you are really going to ensure that more and more audience are aware of it, more and more parents are aware of it? Because I think it starts with awareness and then you start learning and then, the progress. But I think the awareness itself is a big thing, both in India across different classes as well.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, it's a great sort of boost to the whole ECE fraternity that the government is giving it such a big push and prescribing guidelines, frameworks, and prioritizing it in the new education policy, right? So that's one. How are we going to do it? So our message is very simple. What we like to do is to bring complex research over the last many decades. We would like to break it down into simple language that everybody can understand. So I think that's where our core skill lies कि बहुत सारा science है इसमें, बहुत research है जो लोगों को शायद नहीं समझ में आए. हम उसको easy language में लोगों तक ले जाना चाहते हैं, number one. Number two, we also want to be able to give parents a framework that is very easy to execute. क्योंकि इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि अगर आपको खुद से समझना है कि क्या करना है, बहुत सारा पढ़ाई करना है, मटेरियल्स गैदर करना है, एक्टिविटी करने के लिए अपने बच्चे के लिए, तो आप वो कर ही नहीं पाओगे. हाउ कैन वी डू इट इन 5 minutes इन अ डे, राइट? सो दैट्स आवर थिंग कि क्योंकि पेरेंट्स आर वेरी बिजी, स्पेशली इफ यू जस्ट हैड अ बेबी, यू गेट सो बिजी, यू हैव टू मैनेज योर होम, योर वर्क, योर बेबी इज क्राइंग, बेबी नीड स्लीप, बेबी इज नीड्स टू गो टू द टॉयलेट, वट एवर, राइट? सो हाउ कैन वी डू इट इन 5 minutes a day? But 5 minutes a day is one thing. What about the rest of the 23 hours and 55 minutes, right? How we take that 5 minutes आपने जब कर लिया, तो how do we transform the rest of the 23 hours and 55 minutes for you as well? So those are the 3 things that we do, right? One is simple communication to really make you register कि हाँ, ये important है. Before it gets too late, your time passes like that, right? आप देखते देखते आपका बच्चा 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल का हो गया. 3 years is gone, 75% of their brain is already developed. And you have lost that window of opportunity. So we want that you, as soon as your baby comes into the world, or even when you have started expecting, you learn about it. We spread that awareness. We hit you hard saying that this first 6 years are very, very important. Now, whether you come to us, do your own thing, doesn't matter. First, understand that the first 6 years are important. Second is, if you come to us, then we will give you 5 minutes a day of activities, and we will also transform the rest of the 23 hours and 55 minutes because of your association with us. We will also transform your mind as well. So yeah, so that's sort of our initiative towards ECE.
No, I think it's a great initiative, and we are honored to be an investor. And finally, for our audience, I want to, if you can give us summary, what ECEE is all about, that is early childhood education is all about, and not about, because to ensure that there is a quick summary so that they are very, very clear. Can you just summarize that for our audience, please?
So I think it's much easier to summarize what it is not, right? Early childhood education, very simply, 0 to 6 years. We are talking, so what's the time frame? 0 years to 6 years. And literally we are starting 0 years, right? Birth. So don't think ki, acha, 0 matlab 1. 0 is not 1. It's not 1 year. It's from birth up till 6 years. Very important, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, we are talking about creating or raising our babies and toddlers for happiness, with proper nutrition, proper health, proper safety and security. That's fundamental, right? And then giving them the right stimulation in the manner that they want, which is play based, which is sensory based, which is through the theory of multiple intelligences, which is visual, auditory, etc., to create, to sort of stimulate their mind and create the right experiences. Now, what it is not a framework to test your child. ECE is not for your framework to test your child ki acha maths mein kitna acha hai, reading mein kitna acha hai. It is not that, right? It is not a framework where it sort of transition downwards कि अच्छा grade 1 से तो आपने syllabus बताया ही था कि grade 1 में क्या syllabus होगा, grade 2 में क्या होगा, 12 तक क्या होगा. It is not a syllabus. इट इज़ नॉट अ सिलेबस कि आपको एक फर्स्ट ईयर में ये करना है, सेकेंड ईयर में ये करना है, थर्ड ईयर में ये करना है. इट इज़ जस्ट अ प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर पेरेंट्स so that they can help their kids make the best use of their first 6 years, which are so important, and they are also ready for school when they enter school at the age of 6 years.
Raghav, when we met you for the first time, हम लोग सोच रहे थे ये राघव ने क्यों स्टार्ट किया. एंड देन श्रद्धा से भी मिले, आपके वाइफ भी और पार्टनर भी है, वो दोनों जगह पार्टनर है. व्हेन वी मेट यू, वी सॉ द पैशन इन यू बोथ, सेइंग दैट यार ये कुछ करना है. एंड यू प्लेड मल्टीपल रोल्स, वन एज अ पेरेंट, बिकॉज आपके खुद के सन के लिए भी आप ये सॉर्ट ऑफ इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हो, आप रिसर्च भी कर रहे हो. एट सम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम आप इसको कंपनी चलानी है, इन्वेस्टर से पैसा ले रहे हैं, तो आपको ग्रोथ भी चाहिए, सब कुछ चाहिए. सो एट डिफरेंट टाइम यू वुड हैव worn different hats, right? But if I want to define at the core, what is Raghav? What is Shraddha? What is the core value system? What is the core philosophy? Can you give some insights to me? It would be very good for us to understand.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we are a young company and we started it, as you rightly said, and all honesty, we started it because of our own sort of belief and passion for early childhood education, right? But I've been accused a lot of times by people कि यार ये क्यों कर रहा है, ये ना तो एजुकेटर है ना डॉक्टर है, ये तो सिर्फ हमें बेच रहा है. That's what people say, कि you are a marketer, you are just selling it to us, right? And you are scamming us, or this is bullshit or whatever. So firstly, I am so glad that the government is saying, boss, 0 to 6 years super important. आप action ले लो अपने बच्चे पे at that age. So I'm very glad about that. But if I talk about myself, what is my role, right? So obviously, I'm not a qualified doctor. I'm not done like university studies on research on this. But I have personally spent thousands of hours understanding and researching this topic. That's the first thing. And I consider myself as not a educator, not a marketer. I consider myself more like a messenger. Messenger matlab ki this is what is the message by the experts in the world, and I want to distill that message in very easy terms and bring it to the masses. कि लोग ये बोल रहे हैं साइंटिफिक वर्ल्ड में ये हो रहा है, वो सबको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, पर मैं उसको कैसे आपको समझा सकूं, क्योंकि why I want to do that is because we have such a small window of opportunity for our kids, such a small window of time कि बच्चा बड़ा हो जाएगा, like 1-2 years it just passes, and then you're losing opportunity every single day. So I want to take you, I want to shake you up कि भाई उठो, you need to wake up because you need to do it now, because your child, it's not like a gym membership कि आपने membership लिया पूरा साल गए नहीं, अब अगले साल 1 जनवरी को वापस चल जाएंगे. It's not like that, because gym membership you can take any time. But here you need to wake up and take action right now, because otherwise your child will grow up and you would have lost that opportunity. So I think that is my key role. The other thing I keep saying is we know it works. We have literally lakhs of parents across the world from 150 countries who have told us how it has benefited them. We have video testimonials of parents telling us कि कितना उनको benefit हुआ है. But if you will not give us the opportunity to serve you, then how do we do that? So उसके लिए मुझे आपको shake करके बोलना होगा कि come, give us the opportunity, then only we can service you. Otherwise we can't service you, right? Like so that's what we feel our role is, and our mission, of course, is to help an entire new generation of kids across the world who were at least exposed to the concept that early childhood education is supremely important.
Very, very, very insightful and very interesting, Raghav, that it's driven by the passion, and it's a mission where you would like to deliver something to everyone in not only India but across the globe. And it's good that it is coming from India, because India is what people say is the future of the world as well. So I'm sure that we will see this as just a beginning for a huge success.
Thank you so much.